This is Joshua Hart for JTH Boxing. I'm in Manchester and I'm joined by Jamie Moore. Jamie, first of all, how are we doing today, my friend?
I'm all right, my mate. How are you?
Doing very well, very, very well. Very big press conference. We've already had a big one earlier with Jordan Gilzel for Barrett. You see, you got Cameron Vuong on that card.
Out here, though, isn't it?
I know, it's mental, isn't it?
Still got like 10, 15
Exactly, it's huge. We'll talk about this first, since what we're here for. Taylor-Catterall too. I spoke to Akib earlier, and I said, as a team, obviously, I'm sure when you mentioned Jack Catterall, Josh Taylor eventually comes along in that conversation. Any time in the last 2 years, if you speak about Jack Catterall, you'll hear about Josh Taylor. The rematch has been so highly discussed for so long, and it's finally not here, but it's over the line, it's sealed, it's delivered. No, it's probably the biggest fight in British boxing at the moment, isn't it?
Well, if it's not the biggest, it's one of. And, you know, it's been 2 years in the making. It's got a nice narrative to it. And I've just said earlier, you know, for Jack and Josh to have each other around at the same time, you know, both from the UK, same weight division, it's hard. It's all about timing, and you know, I know there's that dislike there with him at the minute, which is genuine, but you know, in the long run, they'll look back and they'll go, you know what, Dave was good for my career because it created that rivalry, which not many fighters get.
It's a rivalry that's been created, obviously, due to the controversy in the first fight, which I'm sure every interview you've probably done since that night, you've probably heard about it, you've been asked about it. But I think as these 2 years have gone on, I think this fight has kind of shown that it's more than belts now. I think obviously we've seen this genuine bad blood. This fight has been made, there's no belts on the line. Josh Taylor doesn't hold anything anymore. But it's still such a big fight for both of their careers. Eddie's been saying it all week, you know, where does the loser go? Their careers depend on this fight, doesn't it?
Well, to a certain extent they do, yeah. But I think the marker for how big this fight is from the first fight, that time in between either makes the fight or breaks it. You know, when there's a fight where it's deemed a controversial decision, then, you know, a couple of months later, if no one's talking about the fight, then people start going, oh, well, you know, we don't really want to see that now. And that rivalry, what was potentially there, is gone. Whereas it's actually got bigger. The longer the time's gone on over those 2 years, people started talking about it more and more. So I don't know what the hell it's going to be like in here a bit when these two fighters come on the stage here. But that's what I mean. It's got everyone's attention. It's like there's not that many fights that do that. So you've got to embrace it while it's there.
I see, we're just seeing behind us, the Chorley chants are booming. They're absolutely booming. As a stable, and obviously with you, you've been working with Jack for a very long time now. How excited are we just to get this over the line? Because I'm sure Jack's wanted this ever since his hand didn't get raised that night. I'm sure all his mind's been thinking is, I want to get that one back. And obviously, we've mentioned how this fight has turned from being for titles to being for bragging rights. But just as a team, how glad are we that we could fight, that it can finally get put to bed? I'm
just over the moon for Jack because, you know, his career over the last 5 years has been sort of stop-start. He's mandatory challenger for the world title, and then he was waiting 3 years nearly for it. Then the Taylor fight happened, and then it's been another 2 years in between that. So and luckily he's been with Matchroom now, and they've kept him active, and he's got momentum going now, which he's actually helped him, and he's got form, he's got ring fitness, which is a big thing. So he's probably come just at the right time, and yeah, I'm glad for him because if it had missed him, I've known all along how good Jack Catterall can be. And if it had never got these type of fights with someone as talented as him, it'd have been a crying shame.
Oh, so we'll turn the attention to Cameron Vuong. Obviously, I remember I was saying this to, I think I was saying this to Akib again earlier. When I first, I think the second time I came to the gym, and you said to me just before we walked in, there's a lad in there called Cameron Vuong, and trust me, he's special. And he's only gone and shown that so far. 4 fights, 4 great wins. Steps into a career biggest fight already. After just 4 fights, stepped into a real 50-50 against Jordan Flynn. And I think it really just echoes the confidence and all the praise that you've been giving him, Eddie Hearn's been giving him. I think you guys and Sam Jones agreeing to fight in, flipping out, it's loud, isn't it? It's very loud. But agreeing to fight Jordan Flynn at such an early stage of his career, it just echoes the confidence that you guys have in him, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and it's not from a disrespectful way in terms of the talent of Jordan Flynn. It's just our confidence in Cameron. And you know, these types of fights should happen more often, especially with an outfit like Matchroom. When they have someone like Cameron, and they can see the potential in him. they should be putting him in fights like this where, this 60-40 type fights, 55-45, and you'll get so many lessons from him, even though you might drop quite a few rounds. In a 10-round fight, you might drop 2, 3, 4 rounds in a close fight, but it's going to make you a better fighter in the long run. So by the time he gets to, hopefully, British, European, world level, he's more equipped to deal with it than he would be if it had not been through lessons like this. So I know Jordan Flynn's going to come. He's going to give him problems, but we believe in Cameron Vong's talent. And talking about temperament before, about Jack Catterall, how is he going to cope with the occasion, or both fighters, and right back to sort of the beginning level, what these guys are doing now, they're getting those lessons where they've got to learn to control their emotions. That's what this fight's about. It's not just about, is he good enough to beat Jordan Flynn? It's can he control his emotions as well as beat him in terms of talent. So Cameron's, he's a good character to have around. He's absolutely balmy. I love him to bits. He's nuts, but he can really fight. He really can fight. And for instance, the first time he sparred Jack never really says anything about anyone who spars. He just goes in there and just gets through it. He jumped out of the ring and he went, he's good in. So for him to say that after the first spar, I knew straight away he was good.
And with this fight being at 10 rounds, it shows that you're eager to move him on quick. I feel like he's shown that he doesn't belong at this building level. Obviously, you can sometimes see prospects and they might stick around for a little bit too long at this journeyman level. After this fight, you could start looking at getting him for an English title, maybe even a little bit higher. Is that the plan after this fight, to start looking for titles?
Well, listen, Jordan Flynn's been, I know he was saying before earlier on, he's really a super featherweight and he's coming up for this fight, but he's been fighting at sort of English title level, so why not? I think he's doing 10 rounds anyway, and it's not really the titles, it's the people he's in with, and as long as he's improving, he's taking the lessons on board, and he's moving in the right direction, that's all you can ask of a prospect.
Obviously, just turning the attention away. Obviously, whenever I get you on, I always like to ask you about some other things in boxing. Last time we spoke was, I think it was the Queensbury weigh-in when we met in Manchester for that little interview, that little sit-down that we did. Yeah. We spoke about obviously AJ Walling and how we said we needed a big AJ performance, and he's shown that. Yeah. He's back in just 2 weeks' time against Francis Ngannou. Yeah. We spoke about Francis Ngannou and said how he's defied the odds really. Yeah. It's a very big fight, and again, it's a fight that if we spoke about this time last year, you would have, if I was to come to you last year when I came to Jim and said AJ versus Francis Ngannou, you probably would have looked at me saying, how the fuck's this like being an interviewer? But now sitting here now saying it, yeah. It makes sense. And Tyson Fury got a lot of criticism off some areas for taking that fight early on. We knew it was because of the intrigue, is Ngannou going to be able to compete? And whether it was because Fury took his eye off the ball or whether Ngannou is actually better than people give him credit for remains to be seen. We'll see in the AJ fight, and that's what makes it intriguing. But I said this before as well, we seen Ngannou in the UFC Performance Centre 2019 when we was in Las Vegas with Carl Frampton. And when we walked in the boxing gym, he was there training boxing. And I tell you what, he can fight. And we said it then, say what he do well as a pro in. So it isn't just he's trained for one boxing match. That was 5 years ago, and he might have been doing it for 5 years before that. So he's well schooled. He knows his way around the ring, and I'm just not sure whether that's going to be enough to compete with AJ, because AJ for me looked the best he's looked in years last fight, and I think he's been away over the last few years and learned his craft. Learned a lot of different coaches. And I think now he's got to that stage where he goes, I could just go in there and let loose, and that might be to the detriment of Ngannou. I'm very fine. I think we're getting pushed for time now. I think everyone's getting ready to sit down. Fury Usyk, it was meant to be last weekend. I was meant to celebrate my 18th by watching it, but plans got a little bit scuppered by that cut. But we go again May 18th now, just 3 months. Bit of a quick turnaround, isn't it, for a cut like that?
It seems so. Hopefully, he'll have the best doctors around giving him advice. He'll have had it double stitched on the inside and the out and stuff like that. So, he's. You'd like to think that if it wasn't really realistic, he'd have been advised not to sign in for it. So we've got to take it for what it is, and hopefully it's not as bad as we thought.
Jamie, I'm going to let you go now, as I think we're about to kick off. So I hope we get catch up again very soon, and thank you for your time today. Nice one, Jamie.